You may have heard in the news that America wants to ban certain network devices because they're not secure. However, there's very little explanation about what the problem actually is. So today, I'm going to try to explain it to you, but I am not a security expert, so this is going to be very surface level explanation. And you should consult a proper security expert if you really need those questions answered. This is basically for entertainment purposes only. So let's get into it. There are three security vulnerabilities that I want to talk about. And number one is default username and password. So that is not happening as much as it used to. I believe there is a law about this, but what manufacturers used to do is create same login and password for all devices that they sell. So you have an admin as your admin as the username and password as your password, right? And then they make these routers and then just ship it, and they expect the end user to change that password. Well, what happens is people don't change the passwords, and people who are trying to hack into something, they just try this, list of known passwords that manufacturers create and see if they can get into them. I believe there is a law now that says that manufacturers of these devices need to generate a random password and include it with the device. So this way user doesn't have to change the password, or if they want to, they could, but at least it's not a known password that other people could try to exploit. So that was a known issue. I believe it's been mostly mitigated by now, but that's item number one. And the next issue is unsecure operating system. So the routers or whatever network devices, they have a little operating system like Windows, except, well, it's Linux probably, or some kind of variation of that. And devices usually have these physical pins. If you open the device, there are pins you can plug in your hardware to, and you can get access to underlying operating system. And that operating system also has what we talked about, those default passwords and usernames. So if someone has physical access to a device, they can crack it open, they can find where those pins or connectors are, connect to them using another Linux computer and open a shell, and then they can send commands and they can do whatever they want. Now, I don't think that's kind of a big deal because unless it's a super high security environment, no one's going to have access to your physical router or IoT device or anything like that. So to me, that's not that big of a deal as well. However, there is a third and the most major issue of them all, and that is unsecure code. So when we use a computer, what we want is it to work normally without any crashes or problems or hiccups, right? We just want program to run, sort of top down, execute all the lines of code, and that's what we want. What hackers want, on the other hand, is they do want the program to crash. They want to find different strings or different sets of data they can send to an application that will make it work abnormally, it'll make it crash, it'll make it do weird things. Interesting analogy to think about. Imagine you have a record player, right? And you have a vinyl record on it, and you have a needle that's in the groove, and the music is playing, right? And what hackers want to do, equivalent of it, is they kind of want to bump that record player so that the needle jumps out of its groove and falls somewhere else. And what they've done is they've placed some malicious code in, let's say, other grooves on that vinyl. And so when they're going to bump the record player, the needle is going to skip and jump into the groove where they have their own malicious code. So that's what hackers are always trying to do. Or one of the ways they're trying to do is they're trying to exploit crashes in an application in order to run their own malicious code. And this is where a question of code quality comes in. Upon examination of code of the operating system that runs this network devices, the code quality is extremely poor. It doesn't follow best programming practices, and it almost intentionally leaves vulnerabilities to be exploited. And that's exactly what hackers want. They are looking for code that's been written in a poor way, that doesn't follow all the safe standards, so that they could attempt to exploit it. And so a few arguments can be made here. Why is this code so bad? Was it given to absolutely cheapest programmer possible, the interns or whatever, to write the code? Or was it written that way by actually the most sophisticated programmers with intent to look like it's weak and easy to break code so that it could be exploited in the future. Now, if we think about physical products that we order from online, or we get at like 99-cent store in US, you know that there's some products that are just absolute garbage, right? They break, they just junk, they're useless. Car parts, sometimes, you know, you buy car parts that last barely a year, you know, as soon as you install them and you hit a bump, your suspension's broken again, right? So there are a lot of physical items that we have around us that are just complete junk. And the same way we can look at the code and say, well, it's been created basically according to the same standard. It's probably same quality level, just in the programming world. It wasn't intentionally created that way, but it's just that the cheapest possible labor was used to create it. So a lone argument could be had whether this is intentional or this is just incompetence. But regardless how it is, let's talk about what some of the repercussions of this. How could this affect us? And one thing people think like, oh, well, they're going to steal data from your network. Whoever wrote this code, you know, hackers are going to hack in and they're going to take your data. But I don't think anyone really needs data off your network. That's never going to be a goal of, you know, other state hackers. So they're not going to care about, you know, your Word documents or Excel files. But what they will care about is gaining control of the device for potentially attacking other devices. This is something you probably heard as denial of service attack, where you get a bunch of rogue computers all over the world and they all start pinging or sending data to a specific server to overwhelm it. And this is absolutely could be a play for another country who is trying to hack someone else. You put all these devices on a network that are vulnerable, and then when you need to, you exploit that vulnerability and you start having those devices attack, you know, a website or a certain area on the internet. You know, it could be water supply department or nuclear or anything else. And they'll all just start basically sending commands, sending pings, sending whatever random data to that place, overwhelm it, making it basically shut down. Now, because these devices are all over the world or all over the country, you can't blacklist them because all these connections come from different IP addresses. So this would really be a perfect attack on some kind of infrastructure. Now, the last point is the company that was being accused of being the worst is TP-Link. And it probably is, but other companies are doing the same thing. They're all taking shortcuts, they all have bad code. Possibly TP-Link is the worst. Sure, you can avoid them if you can, but it's not like you're going to avoid it completely, because pretty much every router or every network device had vulnerabilities at some point. So it is important for you to always install firmware updates and make sure those vulnerabilities and issues are being patched. So don't really have to point at TP-Link specifically here. Others are just as guilty of this problem as they are. So my question to you, is poor software in these network devices, is it intentional or is it incompetence? Put in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you on a video.